Rosemerry Wahtola Trommer is a poet, teacher, speaker, and writing facilitator who co-hosts Emerging Form, a podcast on the creative process. Her daily audio series, The Poetic Path, is on the Ritual app. Rosemary's poems have appeared on A Prairie Home Companion, in O Magazine, on PBS NewsHour, Washington Post's Book Club, and Carnegie Hall Stage. Her recent collections are All the Honey and The Unfolding. She has served as poet laureate in several Colorado counties. In 2024, she became poet laureate for Evermore, helping others explore grief and love through poetry. Since 2006, she's written a poem a day, sharing them on her blog, 100 Falling Veils. One word mantra, adjust. And Rosemary's URL, which is also in the chat, is www.wordwoman.com. Please put your hands together for Rosemary Wahtola Trommer.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you to Sandy, Monica, Shauna, and of course to Caroline. Thank you, Caroline, for that. I was thinking while you were reading about how brave it is to write about what is most difficult and to show up, continually show up. And it's reminding me of this poem from Bertolt Brecht, which has been really saving me lately, called Motto. And I'll go ahead and sing it for you. I just gave it a little tune because I love it. In the dark times, will there also be singing? Yes, there will also be singing about the dark times. So thank you, Caroline, for singing to us about the dark times. Thank you for that. It's a brave thing to do. I think it's what we're all asked to do as poets, especially friends, and more now than ever. As I was thinking about what to share tonight, I thought, what seeds do I most wish to plant in the world? What does it matter right now that we're talking about? And I, of course, I want to talk about love tonight. I'm going to talk about love and read some poems about it, and we'll jump in. This first one is a poem that began with a conversation. I was in a big stadium theater, and I was talking with my beautiful friend Jude Jordan Kalush, and she said to me, "You know what I'm thinking about these days? The question I keep asking myself, is this the path of love?" So I went home and wrote this poem. The question. All day I replay these words. Is this the path of love? I think of them as I rise, as I wake my children, as I wash dishes, as I drive too close behind the slow blue Subaru. Is this the path of love? I think of these words as I stand in line at the grocery store. Think of them as I sit on the couch and snuggle with my daughter. Amazing how quick 6 words become compass, the new lens through which to see myself in the world. I notice what the question is not. Not is this right? Not is this wrong? The question just longs to know how the action of existence links us to the path of love. Is it this? Is it this? Is this the path of love? All day, I let myself be led by the question. All day, I let myself not be too certain of the answer. Is it this? Is this the path of love? I ask as I wait for the next word to come. Is this the path of love? Is this the path of love? Follow, follow, follow the path of love. What a question to ask ourselves, friends, over and over and over, to be curious again and again. Is this? And it's so hard sometimes to know, which is why I feel like poetry is one of our best gifts to help us show up, be so present, wonder what's here, what's here, what's here inside, what's outside. How do we show up and meet it? Um, I thought I'd share it just because my friend Phyllis is here, and she inspired this poem many years ago, and it's a poem about failure and how do we show up and love ourselves. And it came from a headline that she sent me. In fact, the title is so long. Here's the title. After my friend Phyllis shows me the New York Times obituary headline, Lou Michaels, all-purpose player, dies at 80, missed kicks in 69 Super Bowl. I know, it's a really long title. The title's almost as long as the poem. And so I'm thinking to myself, really? Like in the headlines, they put his greatest failure? And it got me thinking, when I die, let them write about all the mistakes I've made. Let them mention in the headlines how many rejection letters I've received from the Sun magazine. Let them say, Mr. Calling for Broadway back in 1987. Let them say, she trained hard, but she never did win a Nordic skate race. They can talk about how my children always fought in front of company, how every chocolate cake I ever made sank in the center, how the beets in my garden never grew bigger than golf balls, and how I never watched the Super Bowl, not even once, much less knew who played for the Colts back in 1969 while I was still forming in my mother's womb, and Lou Michaels missed 2 field goals and helped the Jets win. What do any of us really accomplish? My friend Wayne says, we do what we can and have mercy. Yeah, let them say, I did what I could. Let them say I loved the best I knew how and messed that up too. It's what we do, we who are kicking our way to the back pages of the paper. Well intentioned and foundering, faithful and confused as we are, we mess up. Yes, mercy on us, mercy on all our little hearts, how they beat so sincerely. Mercy on this longing to shine, to be brilliant, and all these reminders again and again and again to show up exactly as we are. We mess up. We mess up. That's what we do, friends. We do our best to love. And even when we do our best to love, we mess that up too. I'm thinking about how do we show up? And I feel like that is the most essential piece in this, for me, in this puzzle of how do I show up and love the world? And I feel like the probably one of the biggest gifts of poetry, uh, like Sandy was saying, I've been writing a poem every day now for over 20 years. And I think that one of the biggest gifts of poetry is that it helps me to feel like I'm in this big conversation with the world. And so the next few poems I'm going to read are all brand new poems. And this is one from maybe last week, 2 weeks ago, but it's really thinking about what is it to show up in the world and to let ourselves fall in love and to be participants and to listen. So this poem is called Big Conversation. I've become the person who talks to avocados. Oh, look how ripe you are. The one who talks to dust bunnies under the bed. Oh my goodness, how long have you been there? I've become the person who narrates wind as it gusts, the one who composes out loud while writing poems. In short, I'm the person who once mystified me. Does she really think the lettuce seeds can hear her? And I love being this woman who converses with stars, with shadows, this person who notices feelings that rise as I move through a day and takes pleasure in greeting them. Hello, shame, I say. Oh, hello, fear. Hello, embarrassment. How much easier life is when I join in the big conversation. And then I am never alone. Not that the bananas talk back, neither does the mop, but that doesn't stop me from being curious about my connection with all of it. The stain on the dish towel, the pond as it melts, the broken pot, the robin in the yard, the highway trash. It's not the talking part I love, but letting my attention touch everything. Cracked glass, a lost glove, tire tracks, mostly. I love the listening for what isn't said back. I love the listening. I love the listening. I think this is my favorite part about writing poems. I know that one of the things we always say is you're supposed to find your voice. I think this is just kind of garbage. I think really the true practice of writing poems is finding our ears again and again and again and becoming better and better and better listeners. I think a lot of us have gotten messages over our lives that we are not lovable. And I feel as if that's a message that can do so much damage that we spend the rest of our lives undoing. And I'm thinking very specifically about a woman artist, Camille Claudel, who was the muse for Rodin, who was just so taken advantage of. I'm thinking of so many people, even in our time, who are maligned, who are not receiving justice. And I suppose I wrote this poem for all of them as much as I wrote it for Camille Claudel. And this poem is called The Art of Tragedy. When was the first time you knew you would never be loved for who you are? The first time you knew you would disappoint everyone when you dared to show up as yourself? I think of Camille Claudel in her white frock, the lacy one she was forced to wear, her mother's anger when young Camille would return from the woods, mud joyously smudged after a day spent forming skeletons in clay. A decade later, Camille would be the one Rodin depended on to sculpt the hands and feet of his masterpieces. He would put his own name on her work, decry her talent, disparage her truth. Have you too had your gifts turned to weapons used against you? Have you too had someone else's hands remold the clay of your life into a story you cannot bear? Could you too, like Camille, carve your most painful moment into hard marble and offer it to the world to see, a moment so raw, people gasp when they see it? Even 100 years later, and filled with ache, they say, "Oh my God, it is so beautiful." That is the gift we're given, isn't it, friends? As artists, as poets, as writers, is to take the most difficult moments, like we just saw Caroline do, and we turn what is most difficult into something astonishingly beautiful. And that paradox, that's what we're doing here tonight, right? That's why we're here, to be able to show up in that way. By the way, Camille Claudel, if you are interested at all in her life, and maybe doing some writing out of it, my beloved friend Kayleen Asbo and I are doing a class on Camille Claudel, and then another on Suzanne Valadon, another artist. I think we're calling the class something like Tragedy to Triumph, or something like Camille's definitely the tragedy, Suzanne Valadon is definitely the triumph, and that class is going to start to not Wednesday, and then next Wednesday also. Those are online. And you could find them on my website if you're interested in signing up for those. But it's mostly a looking at these women artists' lives. Here we are in Women's History Month. And boy, I have to tell you, it matters. If you want to do something really radical, celebrate women. Celebrate the women who are not celebrated all through our history, and learn about their lives and how they have influenced us in ways we had no idea because they haven't been honored. Speaking of celebrating women, I'm thinking about now girls, and I'm thinking about our country, and I'm thinking about what's happening in the last couple of days. And this is a poem that I wrote yesterday called After. On this day after my country bombed a girls' school across the world, part of me does not wish to meet the day, but just after dawn, I wake to the relentless honking of geese returning from far away to make a home again in our yard. I want to rewrite yesterday so every girl who went to school also came home to her family. So every mother and father woke this morning knowing their child was safe in their bed. I am so filled with horror. We killed them. I don't know how to rise. But the great noise of the geese returning, that harsh and strangled sound, pulls me into the world to meet whatever the day brings. A goose wanders past my window, regal with her long black throat, proof that life goes on, even when we can't imagine how. Even then. I don't assume that you feel the same way I do about what our country's doing or what's happening with our president, but if you are interested, there is presently, this week, they're going to push forward the war, what's it called? 38. Say it, Rosemerry, say it. I called my representative and told him all about it today and why he needed to vote in support of this act, which is going to keep us from having a president who's able to take our troops and put them into foreign countries without any support from our Congress or approval from our Congress. This is definitely something to look up, and please call your representatives if this is something you care about. The last poem I'm going to share with you is one called Because. And I know that if you are like me, you end up sometimes thinking, what is the point of doing anything? How do we show up at all? If there's so much wrong in the world, what's the point of doing anything? And I get that way sometimes. And so this is a poem about those moments and how to meet them. And it's called Because. So I can't save the world. I can't save even myself. I can't wrap my arms around every frightened child. I can't foster peace among nations. I can't bring love to all who feel unlovable. So I practice opening my heart right here in this Zoom room and being gentle with my insufficiency. I practice walking down the street heart first. And if it is insufficient to share love, I will practice loving anyway. I want to talk about truth, about trust. I want to invite compassion into every interaction. One willing heart can't stop a war. One willing heart cannot feed all the hungry. And sometimes, daunted by a task too big, I ask myself, what is the use of trying? But today, the invitation is clear to be ridiculously courageous in love, to open the heart like a lilac in May, knowing freeze is possible, and opening anyway, to take love seriously, to give love wildly, to race up to the world as if I were a puppy, adoring and unjaded, stumbling on my own exuberance, to feel the shock of indifference, anger, cruelty, fear, and stay open to love, as if it matters, as if the world depends on it. Thanks, friends.